everyone, it's Margaret Manning here. Welcome to 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. And my guest today is Chef AJ. Chef AJ is a chef and a culinary instructor in Los Angeles, California, and she has lived a plant-free life, or lived on plant food, food from plants for the last 40 years. And she has a program called the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, where she really just tries to help women of all ages to live a healthy lifestyle, to have vital health, and also to gain their perfect weight or their ideal weight. So welcome, AJ. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, not plant-free, plant exclusive.
Quite
the opposite.
You eat plants. You don't eat animal products.
Right.
Well, I'm glad that you're here because I've actually been a vegetarian for years too, and I think it's a beautiful lifestyle. I don't miss meat at all, but but not 40 years. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
I mean, you're only 45 years old, so how can that be?
Yeah, right, exactly. I'll be 57 very soon.
Well, you look great, and I'm sure it's down to your healthy lifestyle for sure.
I do believe it is. I do, because many of the people in my family were already dead at my age, so I think it has something to do with that.
Well, your skin is glowing. It's beautiful, and I'd love to maybe have another interview on that topic because that's something.
Vegetables.
Yeah, it shines.
What you eat, your skin is your largest organ, and what you eat, it really does affect how you look.
It totally does. And I'm really thrilled to have you here. We have a community of women over 60. And so by the time you get to be 60, you've tried a lot of diets and you've tried a lot of different made a lot of different lifestyle choices. And you have got chronic diseases and things that, that do happen. Well, they happen to some people over age. But a lot of women are really concerned about their weight, especially this belly fat and hips, where it all seems to land. And I think we all know we're doing some things that we need to change, but you've got some great ideas on foods that really are perfect for a weight loss diet. So I'd love you to just go through your top 5 foods and tell us why they're important for a weight loss diet.
Well, by the way, the foods that I'm going to tell you they're important for weight loss are also the foods that are important for health. The foods that if you eat in abundance, you can prevent these common diseases of lifestyle that at least plague Americans, like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune disease, and certain cancers. You can actually prevent them with these foods and even reverse them. So my number one food, and what's interesting is I'm going to do these in order of increasing caloric density. It just happens to be that way. But at 100 calories a pound, my number one pick is vegetables, non-starchy vegetables. You can't overeat on them. They're full of fiber and water and nutrients. This is what I think makes my skin glow. This is my makeup, the vegetables, and eating a lot of them, not eating these tiny little servings like when you go to a restaurant and you get 3 spears
on the side
of asparagus on your plate. I'm talking about eating a lot of them, making sure that every meal you eat, even breakfast, half your plate is full of these non-starchy vegetables. So that's number one.
So, a starchy vegetable would be?
A starchy vegetable, excuse me, I meant to say non-starchy vegetable as opposed to starchy
vegetable. But what would a starchy be?
Potato. Sweet potato, squash, winter squashes, that would be a starchy vegetable, and parsnips. Almost all vegetables are non-starchy vegetables. Corn is actually a whole grain, but a lot of people think of corn as a vegetable.
I did for sure.
So, any of the greens are non-starchy. Broccoli, cauliflower. It's almost every vegetable out there except for corn, peas, potatoes, and winter squashes and parsnips is a non-starchy vegetable. All the lettuces.
Okay, number one is non-starchy vegetables.
Yes.
Got it.
And number 2 is fruit. And I mean whole fruit, not fruit juice, not dried fruit, but whole fruit. Fruit is only about 200 calories a pound. And like vegetables, it's mostly water, fiber, and nutrients. Yeah. And what people don't realize that there's a lot of fruits that are fruits botanically that are classified as non-starchy vegetables. Things like cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, zucchini, eggplant, and okra. These are 67 calories a pound. You can't be overweight eating fruits and vegetables. It's not possible. And most people don't eat them or don't eat them in any measurable amount. The lettuce on the bun from the fast food place. So the more vegetables and fruit you eat, the leaner you'll be. Research corroborates that with an study that was done at Tufts University that showed the more servings of fruits and vegetables a person eats, the consistently lower their body weight and BMI. And if you look to cultures around the world that eat a lot of vegetables, like the Asians, which have only a 3% obesity rate, they eat vegetables, lots of them. Yeah, they're on a starch-based diet with a little bit of animal products and maybe even a little oil, but they eat lots of vegetables and rice. So fruits and vegetables is really the ticket. It's the keys to the kingdom, the healthiest foods on the planet, the foods that one of my heroes, Jack LaLanne, recommended we eat. Yeah. And yeah, you can juice them and make a smoothie, but eat your food because satiety begins in the mouth with chewing. So you want to chew your food because you'll be fuller. Liquid calories are not as favorable for weight loss. Maybe not at all.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite fruits are particularly good? Mangoes, pineapples, apples?
I eat fruit. I live next door to a produce store, and I've been trying new fruits like rambutan, which I've never had. So I love all these new fruits. Gosh, asking me what a favorite fruit is like asking me who my favorite dog was, and I've had lots of dogs. There's something that we have, and maybe it's only in California, but it's called the sugar kiss melon. It's a certain type of cantaloupe. I love that. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite fruits. And I love anything in the pear family. So Asian pears, pears are just great, but it just depends on the season. There's no bad fruit. I mean, there's no fruit I dislike.
I think you've raised a good point there to buy food in season too is another thing because, and I certainly do that in Switzerland. It's wonderful here. Like sometimes you just suddenly go to the market and there's like plums, like thousands of plums. The plums must be in season and they don't actually sell the other stuff. It's just not there because it's not good for you. But number 3.
It's cheaper when you buy it in season too.
Exactly, it is.
Number 3 is potatoes, tubers, potatoes, sweet potatoes, or the winter squashes. Okay. My favorite is kabocha, butternut, delicata, acorn, Hubbard. These foods are 400 calories a pound, 350 to 400 calories a pound. And if you eat them without all the added fat, like the butters, the cheeses, and the oils, you can eat as much of them as you want. Let me just give you an example here. This is a bag of candy, 8-ounce bag of generic, not generic, it's from Trader Joe's, but of M&Ms. 8 ounces of candy, which if you went to a movie, you could buy this and eat the whole bag. This bag, 8 ounces, which is 1.5 cups of food, is 1,200 calories. And that's all the calories I get a day if I'm not eating anything. Mm-hmm. I can eat 3 pounds of Japanese sweet potatoes, 3 pounds, for the same amount of calories in this 1.5 cup bag of candy. So I talked to you on previous interviews about people that have eaten nothing but potatoes and have lost 120 pounds a year. So potatoes, they're the most satiating food on the planet, according to Dr. Susanna Holt, her satiety index. They are filling, they're nutritious, they have all the vitamins and nutrients you eat, and they're just amazing for weight loss. It wasn't until I started eating them that I was able to lose these 50 pounds and keep them off.
That was my biggest surprise, actually, reading about potatoes being a weight loss product. Because as I mentioned to you in another video, I don't eat potatoes because I'm afraid that they're too high calorie. And actually, the other thing I didn't know was that they're very good in high in potassium.
They're high in everything, and they're not high in
banana.
Mm-hmm. Again, people are not worried about eating oil, and it's 4,000 calories a pound. Potatoes are only 400 calories a pound. Oil, which people are pouring all over their food, is 10 times as calorically dense. You cannot get fat eating potatoes or any carbs unless you're putting fat on them, like oil and butter and cheese.
Yeah, that's the secret. No butter and cheese. So we've got fruit, we've got vegetables and fruits and potatoes. And what's the next one?
So the next would be whole grains, whether they have gluten or not. Things like quinoa, rice, red, white, brown rice, even white rice, teff, millet, amaranth, corn, wild rice, which is one of my favorite, buckwheat. But eating the grain whole, not flour. Because, I'd mentioned to you on a previous interview that our stomachs are about the size of a cantaloupe and hold about a liter of food, which is 4.22 cups. I could easily eat 500 calories of brown rice, and I often do for dinner. But I take that brown rice and I mill it into a flour, brown rice flour, to make a gluten-free pastry or a bread. Mm-hmm. Now I need 1,500 calories of that initial whole grain to fill the same space in my tank. So eat whole grains. They're very filling. Oats they're good for lowering cholesterol. And when people say, well, where am I going to, I'm not going to, if I don't eat oil, where am I going to get, fat? Well, oats are almost 20% fat. Greens are 3% fat. As long as you eat enough calories, you're going to get plenty of fat. So and if you have fat on your body, you don't need to eat it and you put it in your mouth.
So you mentioned flour, not to use flour. So you're saying probably not bread. So stay off.
Not in my opinion, not for weight loss. Bread is 1,500 calories a pound. It's 3 times as calorically dense as the whole grains. Yeah. Often has like salt added and sugar. It's not for weight loss and not even for health. It's Jack LaLanne used to say the more you eat, the whiter your bread, the sooner you're dead. But I would argue any bread, the sooner you're dead.
It was amazing.
It's too calorically dense.
Yeah.
And it's just here's the thing: sugar and flour go through the exact same refining process as drugs and alcohol. And for those of us that suffer from this disease of refined food addiction, it's just too easy for us to overeat on these things. Yeah. And the caloric density is triple. Beets, which are beets are about 100 calories a pound. You make them into beet sugar, it's now 1,800 calories a pound. And you're taking out the fiber and the nutrients. So anytime you process a food, it's going to be worse for weight loss.
And number 5, do you have a 5th one?
Yeah, the legumes. So these are things like peas, split peas, lentils, beans. These have what's known as resistant starch. And when you eat resistant starch, and this is particularly good for people that suffer from diabetes, you don't absorb all the calories. So if you eat about 100 calories of a food with resistant starch, you maybe absorb about 100. And they're great for stabilizing your blood sugar. And they're very, very satiating. They're high in fiber. They're low in fat. And people love them. I mean, you can make chilies and just so many delicious things. So legumes would be my 5th choice. Vegetables, fruits,
potatoes,
whole grains, and legumes.
Now
that's what you need to eat. Really, that's all I eat.
That's a pretty good shopping basket, really, and that's not an expensive shopping basket, is it?
Oh my gosh, we have people that have done it on Forks Over Knives for $1.50 a day.
Okay, I have two questions. I have 2 questions for you. What about protein? Where do you get your protein?
Yeah, so protein deficiency is known as Querciorsure, if I said that right. And I've spoken at a place called Kaiser Permanente, which is this large HMO, many places. And when I spoke to 300 physicians there a few years ago, I said, has anybody here ever seen a case of protein deficiency? And one doctor raised their hand, and it was a child abuse case. The kid was starving. Wow. You cannot be protein deficient unless you're calorie deficient. And as long as you're eating enough calories, you'll get enough protein. Plants have protein. Believe it or not, green vegetables have more protein per calorie than steak. So 100 calories of steak has only 100 calories of steak has 5.4 grams of protein. 100 calories of broccoli has 11.2 grams of protein. If you look at all the largest mammals that existed throughout human history or alive today, from the dinosaur to the cow to the elephant to the rhinoceros, these are herbivores. They just eat plants. Where are they getting the protein?
Okay. Plants so what about dairy?
Well, here's the thing. Dairy is a problematic food because it is not only an animal product, it is also a processed food. So I would refer people to a book by Dr. Colin Campbell called The China Study. This was a man who was hired by the dairy industry to find a way to get cows to produce more milk. And he found out that the protein in dairy called casein was the most potent carcinogen he's ever discovered. Wow. But even if it wasn't strongly linked to cancer, like many animal products are, it's 1,600 calories a pound. It is so calorically dense. And like the sugar and flour, there is an addictive property to dairy called the casomorphines. When we eat the casein, it turns to this opiate-like effect in our brain, which is why many people say it was harder to quit cheese than it was to quit smoking. Yeah. There was a wonderful book coming out in January of 2017 by the head of PCRM, Dr. Neil Barnard, who would make a great interview for you, called The Cheese Trap, that talks about why dairy is so addictive. So, I don't recommend it. 70% of the world at least is lactose intolerant. If you're Jewish, Asian, Latino, African American, Pacific Islander, we can't even digest the protein in milk. It's not a natural food. There is no dairy in nature. There's no cheese. Yes, there's the breast milk. And, cow's milk is for a baby calf to grow to 800 pounds. And you have to understand that not something like 90% of the world's antibiotics are going to livestock. So if you're drinking milk or eating meat, you're taking veterinary medicine. Plus the cow is given hormones to get her to produce 40 times more milk than she would in nature. And so you drink these. And so you wonder why little girls can get pregnant now at 6 years old, which has actually happened, or develop breasts. It's because you're drinking a hormonal secretion from a bovine. It doesn't make sense.
These are really, really interesting points, and I'm glad you're mentioning the references too. But before we close, though, I wanted to say you've given us 5 really great ideas for food, which is wonderful. But I want to make sure people know on your website, which is dragwebsite.com, and also It's
eatunprocessed.com, not Dr. AJ. It's Chef AJ website or eatunprocessed.com. Or if you Google Chef AJ, you'll find a lot.
Yeah, you'll find it. But the recipes was what I was going to mention. You've got incredible ways to put all this together, and some of them are so straightforward and simple, but they're beautiful. They're really, really good. And your book, of course, Unprocessed, has recipes.
I wish I had a copy. I'd hold it up.
I don't have a copy. But it's on Amazon. I checked it out, so it's there and available. It's called Unprocessed.
Now, and And you can go to my YouTube channel, and I have probably 65 recipe tutorials where I show you how to make the food. And a television show with 13 episodes called Healthy Living with Chef AJ, where we make delicious food. And I'm interviewing some of these doctors that I've referenced.
And I am going to have you back on because we haven't covered nearly as much as I wanted to. There's so many questions. And actually what I might do, AJ, is actually ask the community after they watch these 3 videos to actually come back and say, what are questions that have arisen? So we can actually have
idea, like a Q&A.
Yeah,
That's
do a
wonderful.
Q&A and specifically do a couple of videos, just literally one after the other questions, because I think that you've raised some fascinating points in these 3 videos that we've done today. And I know there'll be questions, and I know you've got answers because you've spent your life focused, like I said, dedicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for being here. It's wonderful to meet you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Margaret. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our 60andMe YouTube channel and also visit our website. We are a strong and dynamic community of women over 60. We're challenging aging stereotypes, and every day we share fascinating stories, interesting questions, and great conversation.